Ambassador Brodsky, thank you so very much for sitting down with us today. We really appreciate it. We're here in Kiev. You've been here for around a year, just over a year now.
More than a year, yeah. Right.
Tell me, how has it been for you experiencing this situation?
Well, I should divide this period of time into two parts, obviously, before 24th of September and after 24th of September. Before 24th of September, I was just a normal ambassador, building plans and trying to promote the Israeli interest vis-à-vis the Ukrainians and promoting the cultural agenda, the public diplomacy agenda, the economic agenda, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, on the 24th of February, everything has changed. And since then, our main focus has been on assisting Israelis. At the beginning of war, we were assisting the Israelis to leave the country, to flee the country. We were sitting on the crossing points, providing the Israelis with documents and assisting them to move out of the country. And since then, our main focus has been on humanitarian assistance. As I mentioned, we've provided very essential, critical humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. I hope to be back in Kiev one day and to get back to my normal duties as a normal ambassador.
All right, Mr. Ambassador, you just mentioned then this aid, this humanitarian aid that's been given from Israel to Ukraine. On that topic, Israel has been criticised by some for what they perceive as a lack of assistance. I'm talking militarily here. What do you make of this?
Well, I think it's normal to criticize, because I don't judge the Ukrainians. They are in a desperate situation. And I don't judge anyone who is in this kind of situation. But in the same time, I think it's important to appreciate what Israel has done for Ukraine. And against all odds, Israel will continue providing essential humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, no matter what, because it's our moral duty. We'll continue doing it in different fields, especially in the field of health. Israel has always been known and has always been appreciated for what it has achieved in this area. And I think it's only logical to provide and keep providing essential assistance in the area of health, assisting people and saving lives of the Ukrainians.
And tell me, what is the likelihood, in your opinion, that this could potentially change now, given that there is a new government in Israel?
Well, frankly speaking, I don't know. But the only thing that I know, that any government in Israel will think first and foremost about the Israeli interests, about the security of the Israelis and of the IDF forces. But within the red lines that we have, and those red lines are pretty well known here in Kiev, we will continue providing humanitarian assistance and all other assistance to Ukraine, because we really stand on Ukraine's side. We support Ukraine, and this support will continue.
Over the last few days, there have been a lot of headlines about Iran's growing involvement in this war. Kamikaze drones, etc. How concerning is this to you, coming from a point, where this is a major threat to Israel also?
It is very concerning, and this was said during the phone conversation between the Prime Minister Lapid and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Mr. Kuleba. And we are absolutely open on it. It's very concerning. Anything related to Iran's capabilities, military capabilities, very concerning for Israel, and we are studying the situation in Ukraine. It's very important to see how the Ukrainians cope with this threat, because one day it can be used against us. We understand it absolutely clearly that this is a clear danger not only for Ukraine. Maybe at this point of time it's the biggest danger for Ukraine, but it might be used against us very soon.
Mr. Ambassador, we are expecting a vote at the UNGA this month on a resolution requesting that the International Court of Justice to weigh in on Israel's so-called prolonged occupation and settlement on Palestinian land. Now, last time Ukraine voted in support with the ambassador summoned, Israel's really been trying to persuade Ukraine to change that vote. What is the latest here? How likely is it that that could happen?
You're absolutely right, and I've raised this issue with my Ukrainian colleagues while here in Kiev. I believe it's counterproductive and it's even absurd to vote against Israel whilst asking Israel to provide support and to provide weapon. And I made this point pretty clear with my Ukrainian colleagues, and I expect them to change their voting pattern in December when this issue will again come up in the General Assembly. But this is unfortunately not the only example of Ukraine voting against Israel. And the last example was even more absurd when they supported a plea to Israel and the Palestinians to have peace talks. You know where? In Moscow. So this is absolutely absurd for Ukraine to support something which would happen in Moscow during this brutal war between Russia and Ukraine.
And when
yeah, sure.
No, and I was going to ask you what sort of response you got from them, what sort of feeling you got from them. You said you do expect things to change.
I think that the general public here in Ukraine support us. They understand why we are so frustrated and disappointed by the Ukrainian voting. I hope that this note will be taken and they will change their pattern of voting soon. But so far, I haven't received any reply to our requests.
And, you know, what about relations? Has that affected relations at all between Jerusalem and Kiev?
Well, it's not a secret that there is some tension in our relations. There has been some tension amidst the demand and the asks from the Ukrainian side to supply weapons. But on the other hand, I think that our relations are based on a very solid ground because we share hundreds of years of common history between Jews and Ukraine, which this history had both bright pages and dark pages, of course. But nevertheless, we are very close to each other. You know that in Israel we have about 500,000 people who came from Ukraine during different periods of time. And this human bridge is of paramount importance for our relations. This is something that unites us more than anything else. Of course, I should mention the cultural ties, the economic ties, the business ties, all this. And I believe that after the war, we'll be able to improve our relations. And what is even more important, that Ukraine will require our experience and will require our knowledge for its recovery. And I should mention that President Zelensky in April this year said that Ukraine will have no other choice but to become a big Israel with its own face. So that's why we're having a conference in Warsaw in a week or less than a week. For the first time, we're going to see how exactly Israel can assist Ukraine to become a big Israel by providing which technologies, which know-how, which experience will be useful for Ukraine in the process of recovery.
And we're really going to need that here in Kiev, right, going forward, given just the amount of damage to critical infrastructure that people need to get through this winter ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely, that's right.
All right, Ambassador Brodsky, thank you so very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.